Hi everyone, it's Katrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique, and we're going to continue on today with another type of peyote stitch. And what we're going to do now is called circular peyote. This is also another type of flat work peyote, as opposed to tubular peyote, which forms a 3D cylinder tube or rope. So to get started, we're not going to need the stop bead for this lesson today. We're just going to be using our size 10 beading needle. I've got it threaded with some .008 Wildfire, just because that's what I happen to have on my needle. And I've got out 2 colors of size 80 round seed beads. What we're going to do is we're going to pick up our first set of beads. We're just going to keep it kind of small for now, so we'll start with 5. As we talked about in the other 2 lessons of flat peyote, which were even count and odd count, when the first beads you pick up constitute rows 1 and 2. Well, in circular peyote, it's different. In circular peyote, the beads you initially pick up are considered just 1 row. So here we have our beads picked up. We're going to drop them down, leave ourselves a little bit of tail. You can either tie a knot to form your circle, or you can take your needle and pass through all 5 beads again, from the bottom to the top. Bring your beads around, and then you can either tie a knot here, or you can just simply pass through 1 more bead to close the loop, just like that. So now I've closed my loop, and I've got my 5 beads added on here, and that's my round 1. There are actually 2 different ways you can do circular peyote. I'm going to show you this way today, to where I'm going to add my second row first before I start my peyote stitch. I'm exiting from this bead, and I need to add my next bead. So I'm going to pick one up, and I'm going to use the green for this second row. I'm coming out of this bead. I'm just going to simply go through the very next bead. And I've added my sticking out bead right here on this green bead. I'm just going to do that again all the way around, because I have to create a sticking out bead before I can start doing peyote stitch. So now I'm exiting this next bead. I've picked up a green one, and I'm just going to go through the next one. I'm going to do that 3 more times. Coming out of this bead, picked up my green, I'm going through the next. Let me move my tail thread here. Pick up my green, coming out of this pearl bead, go through the next. So now I have my 4 sticking out beads. I have 1 more green to add. I'm going to pick that up. I'm coming out of this pearl bead, and I'm just going to go through the next. So in essence, all I've done is create my first 2 rows. My first row is the white bead, and my second row are the green beads. So now I'm coming out of this white bead, and I need to step up into my row 2 bead. So I'm going to go right straight up through the green bead. And now we'll be doing more regular peyote, where we pick up and we go through the next sticking out bead right here. If you'll notice that the space between this green bead and this green bead is now larger, because we're covering more surface area as we build our beadwork out in a flat circle. So this time we're going to pick up 2 of our white beads. We're coming out of our first green bead that's sticking out. We're going to go through the next one. We're going to repeat that, pick up 2. And you don't have to use 8/0s, you could use 11/0s, and put, you would have to determine how many you need to keep your work flat and to fill in the gap. I'm getting a little bit of glare, so let me see if I can adjust my lights a little bit to where you can see better. There we go. So I'm coming out of the next green bead, so I've got to pick up 2 of my pearl beads, go through my next sticking out green, I'm coming out of that green bead, I've got to pick up 2 and go through the next. And I'm almost about back around my beadwork. I have 2 more beads to add. So let's pick those up. We're coming out of this green one. We're going to pick up our 2 and pass through the next green bead. So now we need to step up again. This time we're going to step up into our pairs. We're going to go just up through the first bead that we added in this last round, till we're coming out between that first pair. Now we're going to split our pairs. And what that's going to do basically is we're going to be adding an increase of our green beads. And I'll show you what I mean. Because we're working our circle flat, each time we're going to be increasing it at some way or shape or form. So I'm going to pick up my green bead and come through the next bead on that pair. I'm exiting this pearl bead here, the second bead of the first set. I'm going to pick up a green bead, and I'm going to come through just the first bead that's sticking out on my next set. I'm going to pick up my next green bead. This is called splitting the pairs. I'm going to come through the second bead of my second set. Pick up another green bead. I'm coming out of the second bead of my second set. I'm going to go through the first bead of my third set. So now, in my first round of green beads, I only had 5 beads. By the time I finish this round, I should have 10. So I'm coming out of the first bead of that set. I'll pick up my green bead and come through the second bead of that set. You might have to give them a little tug to get them to pop in there. Pick up your next green bead. You're coming out of your second bead of that set. Go through the first bead of the next one. Look how beautifully flat my beadwork is staying. I'm in between the 2 beads of my set, so I'll pick up my green and come through the second bead of that set. Pick up my next green and come up just the first bead of my next set. Pick up my next one, split this pair by going through the second bead of the set, and now I'm at the end. I'm going to pick up my last green bead, and I'm going to come through the first bead of my first set. Plus, I'm going to step up into that green bead I added in this round. And that way I'm stepping up at the same time. Pull everything into position. And here's what my beadwork looks like. So here we are back. And I have just finished this row where I split my pairs of the pearl beads. And I have went through and added and increased the greens to 10. Now on this next round, we're just going to go ahead and add 1 bead at a time. Because if I add the 2, it's going to cause a big ruffling action in here, and I didn't like it. So I come back and picked up 1 bead and come into the next green bead. Pick up 1 pearl bead, go through the next green bead. And this way we're creating our sticking out bead, but we're not creating so much of an increase that we're causing our work to get misshapen. So I'm coming out of that green bead, I'm picking up 1, go through the next. And just do that all the way around. And this time we'll be adding 10 beads. Pick up our white, go through the next green. till you've come all the way back around. So I'm getting ready to add my 10th white bead right here. I'm coming out of that green bead. I'm going to go into the next green bead, but I'm also going to step up into the first white bead from this row. And now I've completed the round and stepped up at the same time. And that looks a lot better. So at this point now you can see that my gap is much bigger between my white beads, and I can actually go in and add 2 green beads without it causing the work to look overcrowded and ruffly. So there's my beads fitting in nicely now. So now we're ready to add 2 beads. So we'll go through and just add 2 beads all the way around, and the work will look a lot better. If you wanted to go further than that, you would have to step up into the green beads this time and then split your rows again. Now I'm going to show you another way to do circular peyote that doesn't involve splitting the pairs or any of that. We're just going to work it just like regular peyote. The first thing I've done here is I've put 10 beads onto my thread, and I've tied 2 knots in, between my first bead and my last bead. Now I'm just going to take my needle and go through the very next bead to form my circle, just like that. So, I went the wrong way. Let's go this way. Alright, so now I've closed the circle, and I've moved through the 1 bead. I've got one that's kind of looking a little funky right here. I'm going to go ahead and get that back out. Let me try that again. Because basically I had tied one of my beads on the outside of my thread. So let's pick up those 10 beads again. 6, 7, 8, 9, and I have one already down there. Let's try our little knot again. I'm left-handed, it's easier for me to do it that way. So I've got 10 beads on. I'm just going to tie a knot between that first bead and that last bead. And this time I'm going to make sure that my knot falls where I want it to, which is in between those same 2 beads. Just like that. So now I have to actually close the loop, so I need to move 1 bead away from my knot. I accidentally tied a little bit of a knot into my thread, but since we're just learning, I'm not going to worry about it right now. So I've tied my knots, and I've come through the first bead. And I'm exiting this bead. And I'm going to do my next round. And in this instance, all of the beads that we've picked up here now are going to become beads row and 2 again, just like we did in the flat peyote, regular peyote. I'm coming out of this bead, I'm picking up a bead. I'm skipping the next bead and going through the next one, if my knot will let me. What that does is situates the green bead right beside the white bead that I skipped. So I'm going to pick up another green bead. We're coming out of this white bead. We're going to skip the next one and go through the next one. And when you do it this way, it goes back to being like regular flat peyote, where all the beads I picked up at the very beginning for my initial ring become rows 1 and 2. I picked up a green. I'm skipping the one in front of where my thread is exiting and going through the next bead. And I got a trouble with this darn knot, people. Sorry. So I can get it to go through. Excuse me. I'm exiting from this white bead. I've picked up my green bead. I'm going to skip the next one and go through the next one. And it's really important that you make sure that you have an even number of beads before you start this work. Pick up a green. We're coming out of this white bead. We're going to skip the next one. We're going to go through the last one on our initial row. And this is what we have. You will see that 5 of my white beads that are now indented around my circle have become row 1. The 5 white beads next to my green, the 5 white beads that are next to my green beads have become row 1. The outer side beads, the next 5 white beads, became row 2, and my green beads are now row 3. So I'm exiting from this bead on row 2. I need to come up through my green bead on row 3 to step up, like that. And so now I would automatically have to start doing my increases with my seed beads in order for my beadwork to lay flat. So I am exiting this green bead. I'm going to pick up 2 of my pearl beads and come through my next green bead on this row, which is the bead sticking out. You just do that all the way around. Pick up 2, go through the next one. Pick up 2, go through the next sticking out green bead from the previous row. Make sure your beads don't twist up in there. Now when you do this stitch, and when you do circular peyote in this manner, you want to make sure that you're not pulling super tight, because if you pull super tight, you'll see how the edge cups up, and we don't want a cup at this point. We want flat work. So I'm picking up 2, coming through the next green one. That knot's really in my way right now, but... And I'm going to pick up my last 2. I'm going to come through my next green bead plus the 2 white beads that I added in this round. So now I'm stepping up. I'm finishing my row and I'm stepping up. And this is what my work looks like. So now I am in between. I don't really care for this style here. I like the way you split the rows better for flat work, because you're constantly struggling to maintain this flat shape. Now I'm exiting from the second bead of the first set I put on in this round. So I've already stepped up. Now I can pick up 2 beads and go through the next 2 white beads. Like that. We're going to pick up 2, go through our next set, pick up 2, go through the next set of pearl beads from our previous round, you have 2 more to do. I'll pick up my 2. I'm exiting this set. I'll go through the next set. And now I'm back around, so I'm going to pick up my last 2. I'm exiting from this set. I need to go through the very first set I started from, plus the first 2 green beads I added in this round to step up. So I'm going through all 4 beads. I need to get my tail thread out of the mix here. And this is what the beadwork looks like. So you can see that I've been increasing. We're just doing it in a slightly different way. The work is a little less stable this way than it is if you do it where you split the pairs. And I kind of like that split in the pairs way a little bit better, because this is really easy to pull too tight and cause this cupping action. There are times when you'll want the cupping action. Like, for example, I used circular peyote to create this cover for this button, for this shank button. So there are times when I want it to cup, but if I'm trying to do flat work, it's a lot sturdier to do it the way I showed you in the first part of this video. Alright guys, so I'm going to stop right there. basically, the next round, you would most likely have to pick up 3 of your seed beads here. Pass through the next set. And just use your own judgment as whether it's too full, if it's ruffling. Well, actually, it looks really nice here to go ahead and start adding 3. Then on the next round, you would add your 3 green in. And it would just keep going around and around and getting bigger and bigger. I do have a video for making this cup button. I'm probably going to redo it sometime in the near future because it was one of the very first ones I did a long time ago, and I'm pretty sure that it's hard to understand and hard to see. Alright folks, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this little bit longer class on circular peyote. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope you liked this video. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on social media. Head on over to the Bead newsletter, and don't forget to subscribe over there. Thanks for watching.